Hi, I'm off to the Kent and Sussex borders today and going to be hedge laying. And I haven't done hedge laying before, but I will be in the very capable hands of Phill Piddell. And he's the membership secretary of the South of England Hedge Laying Society. And one of my friends, a fellow bodger. So here goes. Before the hedge is being laid, it looks something like this. So you've got quite tall, sort of small trees in there. And they're about 20-30 foot tall. So of course something like that would not be stock proof. Your cattle, your sheep, etc. could get straight through all the gaps along here. So one of the purposes behind the hedge laying is actually to make your whole fence stock proof and actually close up some of these quite big holes. So members of the South of England Hedge Laying Society have been working hard at this hedge and doing an excellent job. And actually some of the bodgers have joined them as well.
So should we have a look at the tools?
Yes, I like tools, as you know. There's another excuse for tools.
So, the first and most important tool is the mighty slasher. This is really just for cleaning out the undergrowth. So what we'll be using this for is basically getting in here, pulling out all this garbage here. It has no fear of the bramble.
Right, no.
So that's the.
And it's quite a nice curve, so you can do a bit of pulling back with that, can't you?
It's really good for that sort of stuff. So
yeah.
You can get in here and really just pull out all this.
Oh yes, get the scrub out a bit. Yeah.
So we'll be using this quite a bit.
Have you ever found anything interesting at the base of a hedge?
I haven't, but people do turn up with axe heads from where it's been laid before.
Yeah. No pots of gold anyway.
I haven't seen one of those yet. No. So that's the slasher. And then for actually laying the hedge, we have a number of tools. One of them is the traditional bill hook. This is a sort of Yorkshire style bill hook with the two ends. So it's got a dub, like an axe end and a bill hook. Traditional bill hook.
Sort of thing you'd see in the Tower of London almost. But
yes.
A nice leather cover.
Nice leather, yes. This one I rehandled with a bit of ash recently. It is pretty sharp. Side axe are quite handy because you can kind of get in quite tight. You'll see us using that one in a minute. And the final tool is in this case, it's a silky, just for cutting off the heels. So we'll see that again in a second. I call it a podger. It's really just for hitting the stakes down at the end. As you can see, it used to be a tree.
Good.
We're going to have a clear out of all the junk underneath. So the slash is really good for that. So this is useful for pulling out all this rubbish, all the dead stuff, all the weeds. We can give it a good old clear out. And ideally we'd go along kind of most of the hedge and get rid of all this junk. So what we're going to be aiming to do, if you have a look at some of these ones that we've already cut down. So this is called bleaching. So the idea is that we cut through the vast bulk of the stem. As you can see, we've then created a hinge, so the plant will start to fold over. We'll see that when we start cutting it. Because this is hazel, you need to do a very long cut because otherwise it just snaps. It's one of each different type of tree has different attributes. Things like field maple have a very funny grain, and they just snap all the time. They're really difficult to work with. Hazel's really nice, but you do need to do a very, very long pleach.
That's interesting.
A long cut.
Yes. So the idea is you still leave it so that it's growing, but completely, shaved off.
So what we then do is we then cut off the heel. We cut that at an angle so that the water runs off that. Any water that runs in here will just run straight out, so we don't get any rot. Yeah. And there's a bit of this was done last week. There's a bit of on this one. It's kind of split back, so we'll run a silky across that and just cut that off because it'll enable it to grow better. So we'll just chop the last bit of that off.
Okay.
So you should see a nice clean pleach. We just started cutting this, and we can see that this piece of branch here has been laid before. So you can see the way it's laid down, and it started to sprout up.
Probably quite old, isn't it? Because the bits that are sprouting up are quite thick.
Yeah. This has obviously been laid before. It's the first bit I've seen in this hedge actually.
Yeah. I mean, would that be about?
It's actually come from a stall way back there. So what we're actually going to do, we're going to lay this piece down after we've done these ones across the whole length. So this actually will stay where it is, and it just can kind of get relayed. It
really sort of demonstrates, though, doesn't it? You were saying about how they grow, and that's really.
And it's really thick. I mean, you probably can't see that. You might need to come around to this side.
Yeah.
But you can see that the base is just a real solid knot of wood. So it's massively strong.
So that could be what, 30, 40 years old, quite easily?
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of dead stuff here. So again, this is one of the reasons we're doing this, is to clear out all this dead rubbish. So we've got nice new live stems to work with. So we're going to be doing this big one here and trying to lay that down on the top. The other thing worthy of note here is that we've left some small sticks here. Because we're working on a bank, I'm not really this short, because we're working on a bank, what we've done is we've left the occasional live stem so that we can lay into that, and it'll help hold it all steady. So as we bring this one down, we can just drop that in here and it'll fall on top of the rest of it. So that's the plan. All being well, that's what we're going to do next.
Great, and
so,
let's hope this rain doesn't get any worse, because it's getting quite bad, isn't it?
Quite annoying, won't it?
So I'm now looking from the other side. You can see what Phil means when you're saying about this having previously been laid.
The problem I've got is with hazel, everything's in the way.
Yes, you've actually got very restricted to the work area, haven't you? Having to get the axe in.
Cut some of this stuff here out.
So this part of the process is actually called bleaching. Have I got that right?
It's called bleaching.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is just moving some of the stuff out of the way. Give me a chance to see what I'm doing. So we've got, as you can see, I've cut through around there a little bit.
Just come down and see this cut. Oh yes, yeah, lovely
sort of
deep
vast
cut. So it really is, I mean, it's like a 80% out almost,
It will
isn't
be
it?
80% by the time if I can get this axe in there.
It seems so extreme, you know, you take so much off, you think it's going to kill it, but I suppose it needs to be enough to actually make the whole thing swing over.
Yeah, we need to get enough, otherwise it'll just crack and snap when we pull it.
Oh, what if it's too thick? So actually by
thick.
having it thinner there's more flex.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes good sense, yeah.
Oh, that's broken. So what I'm trying to do
Just get it enough
is
to
guide
pull it
this
over.
down. I can use the axe as a sort of a
Semi-lever, isn't it?
lever. Because all the angles are wrong.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a bank here. I'll try and push from this end.
Oh, that's cracking a little bit, so it probably needs
Okay.
to... No, I might cut that off actually.
So again, other obstructions are getting in the way. So you have to clear to get the landing down.
I knew what I was doing, I thought I've done that before.
But that's gone over. Yeah, I see what you mean, but that's actually not breaking off, it's bending it.
Bent down.
Yeah.
What I should have noticed is that this piece here is kind of now in the way, so what I should have done is cut that off before.
Oh, okay, but at least you've got a nice cutting angle now. It will close up, won't it? Yeah. Okay.
Kick that out. So what we can now do is drop that down. But we're dropping it over this.
And it's actually going down, yeah, very nicely.
More or less where we wanted it.
Yeah.
We've got two reasonable stems there.
So a proper bit of laying.
So we remove that. Right, so when we're just about to lay this one, and what I'm doing is I'm looking at the wood at the top there to decide what to do with it. Now, I'm going to probably cut some of this out because we need some binders. I can see some binders. The other thing I've got to do is free it up, because what you'll find, especially with the prickly stuff like hawthorn, is it knots together. So when you've done your pleats, you try and pull it, and it's literally the tiniest little thing will knot it all together, and you can't move it, and you end up breaking it down there. So what I'm going to, so this isn't too bad, it's quite free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out some of the wood here that I'm going to want for binders. There's a couple of good binders in here, so I'm going to cut those out now. So that will reduce the volume. And I'm also trying to think, well, where will that go when it lays down? And what I want to do is to lay it in here, just behind that one that we just laid, and sort of tucked in here. Really, I want to cover the previous pleaches. So ideally, all of this will be covered by growth, so the animals don't eat it. So that's the plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this nice binder here. I might have that whole side off because it's only going to get in the way. That's going to give me two nice binders, which we'll be using later. So as you can see, we've managed to find ourselves two new binders. One very nice one actually.
Yeah, they're good and long those, aren't they? And with a flex on them.
So we'll trim that up in a minute, and that'll be used to bind the rest of the hedge in. So what else have we got here? We've got a couple of, we've just got two main stems left. Oh, hang on, is that one on the back? Oh, hang on. I can see there's a split here. This particular tree is split into two. And the back one's sort of grown its way into a load of other stuff. So I'm looking at where I'm going and what I'm going to do. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this back branch off. I've got enough material here. There's a couple of really good solid, nice long stems, so that'd be ideal for that. The back one I'll cut off, which will give me a couple more binders and possibly a stake or two, and it'll get it out of the way because it's all knotted in. So I'm going to take that off about here. Right, so that's that gone.
That came out quite easily. So again, you've got a few binders on the top of that one, haven't you?
Binders and possibly a stake or two. I'm going to cut this now because it's all
Make it easier to extract, yeah.
In the tree, so it's easier to pull it out individually.
Well, would people traditionally have used a silky saw, or is that a modern an axe? Yeah,
yeah,
a billhook axe.
Yeah, you could if you've got not sharp enough tools. You should be able to do everything with an axe or a billet.
Yeah.
Right, so another good
finder there.
Store him.
This hedge is providing quite a nice source of binders, isn't it, and stakes?
Yeah, it's surprising actually how much is in this one that's useful. We'll come back to that later. So, what have we got left? We've got two reasonably good stems. They're not all jammed up together, so that's good. So we should, with a few deft blows with the axe,
yeah, it's strange with your axe because you're obviously cutting it in order to sort of slice it down over a distance, you know, rather than if you're just felling it where you'd go in far sharper.
Yeah.
So it's just to make it bend.
So again, because it's hazel, we need a nice long pleach.
Yes.
To really get in.
That's quite a hefty axe, isn't it, that one?
A hefty axe.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut some of this junk off so I'll get half a chance.
Get in there again. A lot of it is about access, isn't it? Because I mean, here we've got a situation where I'm just one side of a ditch and you're the sort of the other side,
yeah,
but you couldn't really easily attack it from the side I'm at.
Having a clear out at the same time, clear some of this junk out of the way. It's not adding anything to the actual integrity of the hedge. It looks scruffy, and it will just rot anyway, so we'll tidy it all up. Right, that's good. So, good really there. So we're
Nearly there. See, it's starting to move. Keeps you fit, this, doesn't it?
You certainly know you're
It's
doing
quite
it,
physically demanding. You'd know it if you've done a stretch.
See, with quite long stuff like this, it's quite handy to have two people because you can get one person putting a bit of tension on the
yes, to open up your axe cart.
Open it up.
Yeah.
You can sort of guide it down. If it gets too big, it's almost impossible because the wind will take it and it'll be off and generally snap.
These are quite big pieces, aren't they? I mean, it's
Well, it's perfectly axable. Oh.
Things easing it along.
What we can do is we can pop the end of our axe in.
Oh, to act as a bit of a lever. Yeah.
The leverage on helps. Just noticed a bit of tangling up the top there, but we're free to all that.
Is there a favoured axe pattern, or is it just a matter of any axe you like?
Sharp.
Yeah, sharp.
The problem I've got is I've managed to get a bit of tangling. Oh, that's undone. That's good. A bit of tangling here. It's amazing. This is a tiny little thing, but it's tangled us up just enough
to actually cause a bit of holly, yeah, getting in. Is this mainly what you say was a winter activity? I mean, in the summer, presumably it's just too much
Right, yeah,
growth.
staying is always done in the winter.
Yeah.
Because the idea is the trees are at rest. Sap has gone back down into the root structure. And then in the spring, the plant will basically just go, oh, what's happened there? And it will just, there was growth coming out all over the place.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff that we've laid down, there will be sprouts coming out of it. You really won't recognise this hedge. So
here are cuts, they look lovely.
Tuck most of this in.
Yeah, that's really great. You can see how it's
It up.
cut it still get some supplies. And now you're weaving it in.
So, yeah, I'll say normally there wouldn't be stakes and binds. This one actually interesting. This is a live one we've left in.
Oh yeah, so there's root attached at the base.
So this is still part of the tree. Now because we've done that, because we're on a tricky bank, especially at the top there, it's quite high. We know that's not going to come down.
No.
So that's in there for the duration. Ultimately we cut it off just below the stake and binder, so it doesn't sort of stick up too much. And again, this will all sprout out. Sprouting normally happens an inch or two below the cut, just below the cut line. So, and say this was all staked before, we wouldn't normally do this. The staking would normally come afterwards, but it's a handy place to stick all this stuff. So I'm really just knotting it together as best I can, because the more knotty it is, the less chance of it's got moving, and again, the massively thicker the hedge will be when we finish. So that's got to work.
That's good. I mean, that's really has given, you know, I couldn't climb through that now. There's no doubt on that. It's just those few branches coming down's really blocked it. And there's still plenty more we can fold down.
Clean out some of this garbage. So using the slasher, just going to clear out this dead and rubbish like that, so we can see what we're doing. And then I'm going to start laying some of these bigger branches, smaller branches even. Okay, so that's nice and clear, so we can see what we're doing. What I'm going to do now is start laying some of these. Now this is a bit of holly, so this should be fairly simple to go. It's all pretty thin, so I'm just going to tuck it in as we go. Lay it all round, mix it together. Now first of all, you've got to untangle them. In holly, it can be a bit of a nightmare. Stick a couple of these down at the same time and then cut them off.
So these are lovely gentle taps, aren't they, really? And that's enough to...
Peasy, yeah.
But again, a fairly long split, isn't it?
Nice long pleach.
Quite a lot of it's doing battle, isn't it, with all the bits of debris that you get. Yeah. What you don't want is a bramble or hawthorn, I suppose.
Well, hawthorn's good because they're really prickly. So they're horrible to work with because they're prickly, but they're really good for keeping the animals away.
That's true, yeah.
So this holly, again, will turn into a nice tree before too long, and it'll help cover up some of these nice pleaches when they start growing. So we'll keep all those. Tuck all that in. Right, let's try and do that properly now. So we freed it off, so we're getting half a chance. Now you'll see this is actually quite a way back from the bulk of the hedge. So I'm going to try and sort of cut it into the hedge. It's all fairly wibbly wobbly anyway. Nice long pleach like that. And that allows us to sort of tuck that back into the hedge as we're going. Nice bit of prickly stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's what you want to keep the animals out, isn't it?
Yep, keep those little hungry animals out. So we cut off the heel. Cut off this broken stuff here. So that'll all regrow anyway. It's not too much of a worry that we've broken some. Yeah, that's good.
And the whole time you're weaving it back into the main hedge.
Yep, so we're going to try and get as much of this as we can into the hedge. Because again, we've got to cover the pleaches, all this new stuff here is all going to regrow soon. And we don't want the wildlife to come and eat all of it. I don't mind them eating some of it, but if it eats all of it, it'll be dead. So, quite nice little stems here. There we go. Do this, we'll tuck this round these here. All that will regrow.
Come up nicely there.
Pretty manky looking.
Yes. Well, it's a bit like with the bindings, the way, you know, once you have one or two bindings, you can feel the strength of the whole hedge
The
really,
integrity really,
yeah, really
picks up.
picking up. Same with this, watching you do it, I can see that you're weaving it in, and each little bit you add in is adding a lot more sort of physical barrier. And if we go back to where we were a few minutes ago, well, if I was a sheep now, I think I'd be faced with a rather challenging, you know, thicket of holly and thick branch.
Right,
So you can see it's
another piece of...
quite effective.
Ooh, there we go.
It's again quite a nice long piece there, isn't it, to bend down and in.
Gone. That's good. That'll hold that holly in place. But notice it has started raining, which is of course the joys of being hedge laying in the winter.
Yeah.
So a nice long pleach. So we've got a nice bit of dead there. On that.
So Phil, can you pleach sort of along the branch as well as you go?
Yes, what we could do, if this was sticking out at a funny angle, we could pleach it back in. So we could put another cut here and just fold it in.
Weave it in, yeah, to get it into shape. Yeah.
So we don't waste any of the wood. None of it is wasted. Chop some of these bits off. Like that. See the length of the pleach on that, because it's
yes.
So you've got to go for really long.
But I mean, it's holding down there beautifully. It feels quite solid still, even though it is.
Go for pretty long.
Yeah.
Long stuff. Is this alive? No, it's alive. Oh, we'll have this one down then. Not very low, is it? Right, I've freed it off, so.
So quite a thicker bit here.
This long pleach, and we're down. So now I've got to, we might have re-pleach that one in, so you'll see one of those other shapes in a second. Right, I'm just trying to work out how I'm going to hold all this in. Like that. Yeah, so what we've got here, very timely question, Harry. This is sticking out. Now I could force it in, but actually what we'd probably be better off doing is just giving it a tiny little pleach on the side here.
And then bending it in.
Sort of give it half a chance, make it a bit easier.
Yeah.
We'll chop that back bit off in a second.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
So again, it just gives it a little bit more
body in the sort of centre. Yeah.
So again, we can cut this. Cut these. Well, it's not really a heel anymore, is it? Tidy all that up. As you can see, we're starting to, we're a bit light on the material, but we're starting to cover some of these early pleaches up.
Yeah. No, I mean it's looking quite thick already.
Yeah.
So we've got a batch of pre-prepared binders here.
So these are the binders that Graham cut for us earlier.
All right. Yep. He's done a nice job of cutting those, hasn't he?
We did quite well actually, because we harvested the binders and the stakes from the hedges we were going, which was a bit of a challenge. Some of them aren't particularly good, but you get what you get.
Can you always do that, or do you sometimes hit problems that you actually can't get any binders out of a hedge?
Well, it depends what the hedge is.
Yeah.
If it's hawthorn or blackthorn, you're not going to get anything long enough. Your binders really need to be a minimum of 8 foot long,
right?
Not much bigger than your thumb. So
Phil's got all the stakes banged in here, and they're roughly a arm's or elbow length apart, which looks very good. Yeah, and there's a nice bit of packed hedge in there.
So what we're going to do to start the binding is we're going to select binders. Now we've got, as you can see here, a selection of binders, different sizes. Now because we'll be binding in and out, we want binders of a similar thickness, otherwise it'll tend to push over to one side. So we wouldn't put that one and that one together because you've got a thick one and a thin one. So we're going to pick a couple of reasonable similar ones. So those two look good to me. So we'll start with those. So we'll move that out, looks like a hedge. So we'll start here. We're going to do this in the centre of the hedge just to show you what's happening. Detangle it. So we'll start at the back. These have been banged in just enough to hold them in place. We'll give them a final bang in later. Around the back of that one, front of that one. And it really is a simple case of just weaving it in and out. Obviously one isn't holding it very, very strongly. We'll get our next one. I'm afraid Harry's standing on.
I'm standing on them, aren't I? Oh yeah.
one then goes in on the opposite thing.
Oh right, yeah. So okay, so if one goes
So one at the back.
one way, one at the back, and then the
one at the front.
next one goes at the front. Yep,
Yep.
got you. So that actually gives it a nice. It is like a basket weave, isn't it? Really?
Very similar sort of concept.
Yeah.
So we then get our next one.
So already it just looks nice.
You can feel it. It's already starting.
Yeah, it is. That as I
strengthen up.
put my hand on that, it's
So, we'll put that down. So this is our third one.
right. Yep.
So as you see again, I'm trying to keep them broadly similar. We're not putting them to final height yet. That'll come later. So with South of England style, we've got 3 in just to give us a starter, and then we put a new binder in for every single stake. And the way we do that is we start under 2, and then we go round the back of that one, and then front of that one.
Well, get the odd one to break. That's why you want it nice and green, isn't it?
Yeah,
It does illustrate the point, though, actually. But so there's quite a lot of debris off of this hedge, isn't there? Really, when you look at all the brushwood and stakes we've got here. But at least you're able to recycle quite a lot of that.
Sometimes we get, when you finish, the thrift pile, the rubbish pile, is 2 or 3 times the size of the hedge.
Really, yes.
When you've got a landowner that says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll burn that," and they see this massive
Yes.
pile over it.
Oh, what's happened there?
Yeah. So South of England style, we're going to put the binder under 2, one binder for each stake, and then we just weave it in same, and then we'll lose that down to the end there. So that's basically the finished section there, and then we're going to put another one in here. So the next binder, here we go. We'll start under here.
So again, it's under 2, so
Under
that sort of
2.
wedges it in nicely.
I can pull it apart.
So you have to try and get it apart.
This
Yeah,
sort of shows
it gets
how
quite
tough it
physically quite difficult that.
So it's quite nice.
So it goes in. Yeah.
If you've got a nice angle, it's nice to have the angles all at the same place. So the next one in,
And then again, it's this weaving along.
and weave that in.
Yeah.
So then we've basically got a nice. This section here is pretty much as it should be. So what we'll do now
Yeah,
is
that is solid.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I haven't
Haven't polished the
yet.
stakes down yet. No.
So what we do now is we want to try and get them in a nice straight line. So when we've got a row of this done, we'll start to kind of manipulate this around. You can see with the bendy ones,
yeah, so you can actually twist the stakes.
twist it so
Yeah.
you can get the line nice and straight.
Yeah.
Podge these in because we're going to redo this one in a second. But so the idea is you get these in a nice straight, 18 inches apart, all looking straight, and in a nice straight orientation. So we can it's amazing how much you can do by twisting and bending and pulling. It's worth standing back, looking down the line. As you can see, that's pretty straight.
Pretty good actually. I was thinking that. Yeah.
So not too bad.
No.
So the next thing we're going to do, this is going to be 4 foot to the top of the binders.
Right.
What we'll do next is we're going to hit these down, and
Yep.
as we hit these, it'll take the binders down with it, and we get it to pretty much where we want it, and these will be in nice and solidly. We'll then cut these off at an angle, which we'll see later.
Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was it really.
So down to
Under 2,
under 2.
you've gone under 3.
Under 3 of I failed at the first hurdle, literally. Right, just there.
That's
Yep,
it.
Under 2. Yep, got you. Then that side, and then bring it back into this side. I can see what you mean about making it as flexible as you can.
Yeah.
Turn it into this side, and keeping it pressed down the whole time. I take it.
Yeah, it's not that critical.
Have I got the right height, or am I too low?
No, that's fine. We're going quite low there.
Okay.
You've gone around the front of one, and then
Oh, I haven't I?
yeah.
Poor quality control here. Right. It's more like it, isn't it? Like that, and then. Frankly, yes.
Right, next.
First bit laid.
Right, come on then, Harry. Do your next one without any errors.
Right, okay. So again, same feeding in point, and 2
Well,
down.
new stake.
The new. So I just go along.
Yeah, it's on to the next one.
The next one. Right,
Yeah.
got you. So I've moved along one stake. I'm feeding in again, and behind that one, bring it up in front of the next one, and then behind the next one. One has to put a fair bit of pressure to bend. It doesn't run, but it's not too bad. And then up again,
That's it.
and that side, and then bring it down here. And the last little bit of scrub at the end, down there.
What we've got to do is not leave the junk in the hedge. We don't want any dead stuff in the hedge.
Okay, but the idea, part of this is that the hedge resprouts, doesn't it?
Yes, the purpose of laying a hedge is to thicken the hedge up, as we said, create a stock-proof barrier. Now what we've done is, as you can see here, we've laid this branch down quite a lot. What will actually happen is you'll get regrowth. All these stems that are now horizontal or an angle will all start to regrow. So you'll get sprouts coming along here. So when we look at this in a couple of months, all the regrowth will come up here through the hedge. The whole thing will thicken up massively. So the bleaching cut, well, this was done with a chainsaw because it's a huge piece. So the idea is you've got to create a hinge. So we're going to cut probably 80% of the way through the actual plant. You can see there's a massive great chunk there and a small part there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's pretty much 80% through, and that gives you a hinge and allows you to actually just lay the thing down, the plant down on top of the stuff you've already laid.
Yep.
Now that will, at the moment it's pretty weak because it's just a hinge. So the point of the stakes and the binding, that isn't, I can't move it at all. So the idea is that it's not going to get blown over by the wind and fall down. That will, over the next year, that will put this plant will obviously realise it's a bit stressed out, and this area here will beef up massively. If you cut one down that's been bleached, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, you'll see the growth rings, and there'll be a massive spurt of growth, really just to thicken that piece up. And after a few years, you see it in hedgerows, where you'll see a tree goes like that and then grows up like that with all sprouts coming off it. That's where it's obviously been laid many years ago. So yeah, there'll be loads of regrowth right the way through this hedge. The purpose of the stakes and the binders is really just to give it a good solid feel so it doesn't move and therefore break any of this stuff. These will obviously rot through. 5-6 years time, these will all disappear. But what we don't want to do is put too much dead stuff in the hedge, because the dead stuff will obviously rot. The more rot you've got in there, it's going to potentially start rotting your live stuff. So you want to keep the dead to a minimum. And
by the time your stakes have rotted away, your actual hedge has resprouted.
Yeah, but these, I mean, as I say, these will last a few years. The hedge will be, after about a year, you'll be amazed how much more solid this stuff looks. And a few years later, you won't even know it's ever been cut. The whole thing will just be sort of scabbed over.
Do you have to relay the hedge like 5 years' time or something like that? Or
hedge, that's interesting actually. So laying a hedge is obviously expensive and very labour intensive to do on day one. I would estimate you're probably looking at about £15 per yard. We're talking yards.
Yes, yes. Nice, yes.
You're probably looking at about £15 a yard, but you've then got, from day one, you've got a stock-proof barrier. As we saw earlier, this hedge was just, there were bits of barbed wire and loads of gaps in it. It was pretty useless. So this is now a proper stock-proof barrier. If looked after, if trim it every now and again, keep it trimmed up, you won't have to do anything to this for at least 50 years.
Gosh.
So if you look at the cost of putting a metal fence in, this actually is cheaper in the long run.
Yes, yeah.
And obviously better because once it's thickened up, you've got a whole wildlife haven in here. So the wildlife have got somewhere to actually live, rather than as we see with most hedges, you've got a bare trunk and then a little bit of sprouting where the flailing machine's been around every year. So you've got that much actual hedge and a bare trunk. So it's not much use for wildlife. But here we've got somewhere really nice, right down low, thick the whole way through. The binders are supposed to be 18 inches apart, which is approximately this sort of distance. It's not mission critical, but that's what we're aiming for. They should also be in a nice straight line. So if we look down the line of the hedge, when finally put the binders in, we can straighten them all up and get it as a nice straight line. Or if we have got curves, as we have in this case, it's a gentle curve, not all kind of zigzaggy. So that's what we'll be aiming for. So next job on this one is to bash these down to final height, and then put them into order, bang it all down, and trim it all off. So that's what we'll be doing next. So what we're going to do is using the mighty podger, we can larrup this in, because obviously we don't want this coming out. Then we can bash the stakes down. The ground is starting to go away. We're all sort of halfway up a hill at the moment. It's very bizarre. So again, we're just going to bash these in as best we can. The binders are a bit springy, they do move about. We've got this one in a pretty straight line, which is what we're looking for.
Yeah, just wondering actually how many varieties we've got in this hedge, because I've heard, and I haven't looked at this recently, but if there's something like a 100-metre section of hedge, you've got one species for every 100 years. So if you've got like 4 different varieties, the hedge is 400 years old.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact numbers, but what do we find in here? We found some oak, hazel, holly, a bit of plum. What's that? I don't know what that is. So
that's 4.
4.
That's 400 years, which actually, given the age of the house, is possibly about right.
Could be. I think this one, to be honest, is mostly self-seeded.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a planned hedge. I say it's hazel, it's very clumpy hazel. Not much else, to be perfectly honest. But hey, it'll look nicer when it's done.
Yeah, we're actually trying to find a place here today, because we're down in, well, we're just Sussex here, aren't we?
Sussex,
just out of Kent. Yeah, I was had a rough idea where it was, but actually I was just driving along this road and suddenly, hey look, hedge, and it rather gave it away. So that was rather good.
You knew where to come.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to reduce the volume because the finished height is going to be 4 foot to the top of the binders, which is going to be about here. So I need to get some of this down and out of the way. I've still got a lot of pleaches to cover up down the bottom here. So quite a bit of work to do to try and reorientate some of the hedge. So let's see what we can do and get some of this rubbish out of the way. On this hedge, the facing hedge is facing side rather is the road side. So we put the stakes and binders are on the inside, so that it looks nicer for the viewing public. It's a bit thin down this end because there wasn't much material, but there's enough stuff in here that it will still thicken up and get going. So as you can see, the hedge is supposed to be a straight line. Obviously we've had to go around a slightly big tree there. The binders haven't been pushed down to final height yet, and they will be approximately 4 foot to the top of the binders, following the lie of the land as we go. As you can see, the tops have been cut off at an angle, same angle as the pleaches that we did earlier, and then the backs have just been trimmed off in case any horses or livestock stick their heads on it.
So this is what the hedge looks like from the roadside, and as I say, it is a bit of a giveaway for what's been going on here. It's rather nice actually, because there's a good bit of bank with this roadway, and there's a nice deep ditch as well. So you've got a double protection from your stock point of view of a ditch as well as a nicely laid hedge. Yeah, so the website for this South of England Hedge Laying Society, Phil, it's...
Yeah, we've got a website. The address is www.sehls, South of England
SEHLS, right, South of England Hedge Laying. That's a bit of a mouthful, but I've got it.
It's the abbreviation for South of England Hedge Laying Society.
Great.
.co.uk. If you Google South of England Hedge Laying, we are #1 on Google.
All right, oh, jolly good, yep. I'd like to hear that.
So membership is currently, 2014, it's £15 a year. Training days are currently £20 a day. Once you've joined the society, we offer 3 training days a year. We recommend you do all 3. It's not compulsory, but you'll get different types of hedge, different sorts of. You'll get a different trainer. When we do training, we typically have 2 trainees and 1 trainer. So it's nice that it's kind of pretty interactive. After the 3 training days, you're entitled to go on to an Improvers Day, which you run as a competition, and you do it in pairs, and the winning pair win a trophy for the year. So that's all pretty cool. If you go any further, then we have the various competitions. There's lots of ploughing matches around the country, especially around this area. They all offer hedge laying days as well. So yeah.
Well, here's our hedge. Still a bit more to do, but the rain's got so bad now we're stopping.
And the thing is,
it does look nice. Look at all those nice cut tops and bindings. So that's hedge laying. Well, I hope you didn't get too wet with this film. No, I hope you enjoyed seeing all that about hedge laying, and perhaps have a go at a hedge you might have somewhere, or a friend might have, or perhaps join a hedge laying society. Anyway, thanks for watching.